Hi, Jaclyn.
Hello.
I'm sitting right next to a really loud air conditioning vent. So
Well, I can't really hear it, so it's all good.
Great. Okay, cool. Glad no one else can hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You work at out of Idlewild, is that correct?
That is part of my job, or one of my jobs. Yeah, I'm the director of young adult ministry here.
Gotcha.
And I'm also the UKirk campus minister for Rhodes and U of M.
Gotcha. Do you know the Peelers?
I love the Peelers.
Yeah, Margie just graduated.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't know Margie well, but she sounds just awesome.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
Yeah.
She is working at a farm right now and then going to Duke Divinity School. So
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. We got really close during her time at UT. So I'm sad. She actually texted me yesterday and said she was thinking about me and just checking in. So
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I know her parents pretty well because they're very involved.
Yeah, I know. I've met her mom a couple times. I've never met Michael, but today's actually Melissa's birthday.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, it popped up on Facebook. So
yeah. And so are you the communications coordinator?
Yes.
For UKirk-UTK?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want one of you.
Yeah, I've been here in this position full time for about 4 years, but I've been here since the campus minister before Andy, and Andy was before Rachel. So
Okay.
Andy was here 2015 to 2019, and then Rachel got here in the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
No, the end of 2019, not 2020.
Yeah. Rachel and I had a little bit of overlap when we both lived in Nashville. I did my field ed at the church that she then worked at there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm from Middle Tennessee. I grew up at First Pres Smyrna, not in Nashville, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that I'm introducing you properly, is there anything in particular you want people to to know? Okay.
Nah, whatever. It's
okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Communications coordinator is my title, though. That is.
Okay.
Yep.
And we are talking about communication strategies.
Yeah, strategic communication, I think, is the
great. Okay.
The title that Jenny gave it. So.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. In the past few of these, we've had around, I guess, like 5 or 6 folks join. So it's been kind of a nice small group conversation.
Yeah, I think Jenny said like kind of keep it around 30 minutes with, questions and stuff like that. So
yeah. So when does Rachel come back from maternity leave?
She is back. She came back a week before last.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're just kind of like in and out throughout the summer. We'll work from home,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. She was here earlier and then she left about 11:30, and I told her she wasn't allowed to get on the talk because it would make me nervous. So she said, well, you do all the stuff here anyways for that, so I don't really need to learn it. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. And she had such good timing with her baby.
Yes.
I'm having,
and it was not planned either to do it that way.
Yeah. I'm having my first child the end of this November.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Which isn't terrible because it's like right before, Christmas break, but still got a little bit to figure out with the spring.
Yeah.
Hi, Neil. Good to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And hi, Jenny.
Hello.
All right, we've got a few more friends joining us. I might give it one more minute for folks to log on in case anyone's having any difficulties. Oh, I like Neil's idea of signing in the chat with who you are and where you are. Yeah, if y'all want to follow Neil's lead, write down who you are and where you are, that'd be great. Well, as y'all are signing in, welcome everyone to this afternoon's Leadership Lab. Some of y'all probably know Jenny Norris Lane had her gallbladder removed yesterday, which is why she is not here today. Last week she went into the hospital after having a gallbladder attack and had it removed today. So we are in prayer for Jenny as she recovers. Been in touch with her, and yesterday was a little slow going, but she was starting to feel better at the end of the day. And our guest speaker today is Jaclyn Beeler, who is the communications coordinator for the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And Jaclyn will be talking with us about strategic communication. So I am excited to hear from her. I know communication is something that I often struggle with, so I'm excited to hear what she has to say. And I will turn it over to Jaclyn.
All right, I'm going to, is it possible to make it to where I can share my screen? It's not super important. Most of it's just bullet points, but.
Hold on, I have this power. I can make you a co-host. So you should be able to do that now. Are you getting a share screen option now? Oh, great. Okay.
Going. Here we go. All right. So it's nice to be with you all today. I am the, like Elizabeth said, the communications coordinator at UKirk-UT Knoxville. I am full-time here. I have been here full-time for about 4 years. I was part-time for a few years before that. So I have seen us through 3 campus ministers. All have been wonderful, and but all have different styles, and it's been pretty neat just to see that, you know, transition throughout my time here. But I do think it is really neat that I get to be in this position. You know, while I do communications, I do still get to have relationships with students and interact with them. So that is probably one of my highlights of the job as well. But I don't have to preach, so that's awesome. So I am going to start out talking a little bit about social media. So, we're communicating first and foremost with college students. And, I'm 34 and I am on social media all the time. They are younger than that and they are on social media even more than us. So, students get a lot of their news from social media. And so that's kind of why I focus there, because it's also a free tool for us. If social media is not something that you are comfortable with or think that you're very good at, find a student to do it. It could be a volunteer position. It could be an intern position. We have 3 interns here, student interns here at UKirk-UT Knoxville, that they make a $250 stipend a month just for the active months of the school year. So like they don't get paid in December, but we do pay for their Monterey College Conference. But just whatever you are capable of doing, but I'm sure that there is a student that it would just second nature to them to do something like that. I would not focus so much on platforms like Twitter and TikTok. While TikTok is very popular, unless you have a very creative bunch of people, I would focus on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is where most of your students are. Some are on Facebook. We have several that don't have a Facebook. But Facebook is where you're going to touch more on like your board members and donors and members of supporting churches. Consistency is key. Just remember that you're not just posting for students, you're posting for donors, supporting churches, parents, future students, and you always want to make sure that you're posting consistently to stay in front of people's eyeballs. And when you are, having an event and things like that, save some photos, take a bunch of photos at things and don't post them all at once, save them for like filler posts. If you're like, I have nothing to post this week, save some photos from like a really awesome event that you did. And there's a lot of people there and you want, to have those photos in your back pocket. Save those photos and you can use it later on to either like during the summer to like reminisce on an event that you had, or maybe you want to post it with like your mission statement, or, we miss our students, anything like that. Photos over word graphics. What I mean by that is I choose posting photos of people over posting photos of words. I do choose to do those sometimes, and I will get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. No, actually, I'm getting into that now. So here we go. Gotta pay attention to my notes. So some of the things that I've used it for, like every year at the end of the semester, well, each semester, we do a thing called exam breakers. And I will make a schedule for that and post that on social media. So our students can save it, and also so potential, students around campus that maybe they aren't part of our like core group, but they might find something interesting that we are doing and they want to come to that. And then for like the lunch on UKirk, we just did this a few weeks ago, and I could have very easily just posted a picture of the food truck park that we were going to. But I really wanted to grab people's attention when they were scrolling. So I just put the words over the photo. I do not do these very often because people want to see photos of people. Donors want to see photos of students. Students want to see pictures of themselves and their friends. And it is good for organizations like More Light. They, share quotes and things all the time. And I find myself sharing those to my story all the time and to UKirk's story all the time. And it works really great for their organization. And then, for UKirk, you could do something similar around Advent or Lent or around Pride, different Pride Month, different holidays and things that are coming up. If you want to share a scripture or a quote, something like that, it would be, very appropriate to do so. I just try to mostly post photos of faces. So with that, quality photos. Take your time when you're taking photos at events. Your iPhone or whatever cell phone you have, your camera is fantastic on there. That's all I have. I have an iPhone 11 Pro something, and the camera takes phenomenal photos. And that's all I use. If you have a student or a board member that is a photographer and would be interested in taking photos at events, even better, but I would not stress over that. What I mean by take your time is just like slow down and like really like focus on the picture you want to take. Candids are just as good as posed pictures. The students around here, I have them trained. We have a coffee shop in our house, and I'll go in there and they'll see me with my camera out and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to act like I'm working right now. So they just know that I'm always around taking pictures. But like I said before, take lots of pictures at events, especially if it is an event that you have a lot of people at, because you can use that for future fundraising posts. Hold on to those pictures, post one or post 3 if you want to do like the swipe through on Instagram, but don't post all of your pictures at once. It's good to keep a library on your phone for posts in the future. And then audiences, and yes, that is plural. You're posting for students, potential students, donors, parents, members of churches that support you, and so on. And we are actually going to get into audiences next. Any questions so far on just that? I will get in a little more detailed on all of it as we go, but that's just kind of the social media side of it. All right, let's go into audiences. So the big audiences that I think are very important are our students. We would not be doing what we do without the students. Our donors, we could not do what we do without donors. I am not sure how all of your ministries are structured. Here at UKirk-UTK, we are not supported by a single church. We are supported by churches within the presbytery that want to support us. We used to be almost completely funded by the presbytery, but as churches have left the denomination, people have left the church. Our presbytery went virtual per se about 7 years ago, selling the building and things like that, and money has just been tighter, so we don't receive as much money from the presbytery. We do receive some from the synod as well, but a lot of our financial support comes from individual donors. And so we, think about that when we're posting things on social media. And then our board members are another audience. And then, like I said, the congregations and the presbytery. So, there's people at, my church that don't give directly to us, but they give to the church, and they know that our church supports UKirk. And so they want to see that we are, active and engaging with students. So any questions on like any other audiences that you think are important that I did not mention before I get into each one of those? All right, so first we're going to talk about students. So like I mentioned, social media is where students get their information. That's where they get their news, like literal news. They're not watching, the 5 o'clock news at home. They're getting it from news accounts that they follow on Snapchat or Instagram. And so that is also where they're getting information about events. Students, like I said, are more so on Instagram versus Facebook. Graphics are good sometimes, but students want to see photos of themselves and their friends. They're more likely to share something to their story if they're in it. I notice that a lot from students that we follow. If I post a photo and they're in it, they'll share it to their story. And that's more people, especially if that person is in other organizations or in a fraternity or sorority, that's other college students that are going to be seeing, oh, they're involved in that. Maybe I should go try it out. One of the big ways that we communicate with our students is through GroupMe. So if you're not familiar, GroupMe is an app that you can get that is just an easy way to do group messaging, because it gets tricky when some people have an iPhone, some have Android, stuff like that. Group messages get a little wonky. So GroupMe makes it really easy. You can silence a group if people are talking too much. You can like messages, you can do all kinds of stuff in there. And we actually have multiple groups. So we have a group for info and, sorry, let me go back. So part of the reason that we don't post a lot of graphics on social media is because, one, because I like to do photos because people want to see that. And two, we share a lot of those graphics in our GroupMe message and a lot of that information within our message. A lot of times the graphics that we do share are for potential students and for donors to just see the upcoming events that we have going on. So we do have multiple groups in GroupMe. We have one that is just a general information group, and in that group, only staff and interns talk, can send messages, and that is to make announcements, remind people about upcoming events, and things like that. We have another group that is just for like casual conversation where any of the students can talk. They can, invite people to other things on campus, or, hey, I need a roommate, or does anyone want to go grab some coffee? That kind of stuff. We just found we used to only have one for that, and it was getting just a little tricky. People were getting really annoyed with how often people were talking. And so the general casual conversation one, students can silence it and just go look when they want to look at that one. And a lot of people keep the info one not silenced so they can stay informed. And then we also have other groups like the interns. We have a group for residents. Our campus ministry is in a house, and on the top floor we have an apartment for 4 students. And so we have a group for that. We also have a group for parking. We sell parking spots to the students for the year. And then we have another group for seniors, which comes in handy, especially for the end of the year when we do senior sermons, and we're trying to get like dates and times for graduations, stuff like that. And then within GroupMe, we do like in the info, we do head counts in there. So we're trying to get a number for to order dinner. We'll be like, hey, if you're coming to this, like this message. And then we can kind of figure out how much food to order, that kind of thing, or how many tickets to buy to something. And you can also do polls within GroupMe. So if you're trying to decide where to go eat, or where to order food from, or what movie you want to watch, that kind of stuff, that comes in handy as well. And then often we will have our student interns send messages instead of Rachel, our campus minister, or myself, because most of the time it's me like bombarding everyone with information, and people are just like, oh, Jaclyn sent another message, I'm just gonna, whatever. But if it's like Carolyn, our worship intern, like they're gonna be like, oh, like maybe this is student led and Carolyn's going, maybe I'll pay better attention. We have just found that works with our students. So we also have announcements I put on there. Even if we send something in the GroupMe, we have found they are college students and they are independent, but they often need to be reminded of things multiple times. And so we have worship every Wednesday evening, and most of the time it's Rachel. She makes the announcements before worship starts. If it's an event or a mission opportunity that one of our interns has kind of put together, then that intern will stand up and make the announcement. We send out a monthly newsletter, and that newsletter goes to our current students. And then it also goes to any student that marked Presbyterian on their UT paperwork. So we are given at the beginning of every semester or every year, we are given a Excel spreadsheet that has every student that marked Presbyterian. Now, they may be PCA, they may be EPC, or, we are also Cumberland Presbyterian Ministry. So they might, be Cumberland or PCUSA. It doesn't matter. They're getting our email, and they will, often unsubscribe if they don't want that information, but we go ahead and send it to everyone. And then we have flyers that we make and we put around the house and sometimes around campus if it's a bigger event like movie on the lawn, things like that. But we, like I said, we have a coffee shop, and so we'll put flyers up in there as well. We put them in the bathroom. We put flyers everywhere, all over the house, so students can keep up with what's going on. Any questions about communicating with students?
I have a question. Thanks, Jaclyn. This is super helpful. I am wondering, how do y'all share or get people to join your GroupMe? Like, I felt super weird about that. Like, halfway through the year, I realized there were students who weren't in our GroupMe, and I was like, oh gosh, what do we do? So I'm just curious about how you advertise that and invite people to join.
Yeah. So actually, if we, at the beginning of the semester, Rachel will actually make an announcement. Hey, we have a GroupMe. If you, like at the first couple of worship services, if you're interested, please see Jaclyn after worship and she'll get you, in those GroupMes. And then if we kind of notice that there are some new people at worship, she might make the same announcement, or me or one of our interns might go up to that person and just ask them if they would like to be included. Most of the time they say yes. Sometimes they say no, very rarely. And then I actually, at the end of the semester, at the end of the spring semester, we always do this thing like, all right, seniors, it's time to say goodbye. And so they will, say their goodbyes to everyone in the GroupMe, and we remove them from that GroupMe message. And then at that time, I actually take time to, if there is someone we haven't seen in like 2 years, I usually would go ahead and remove them as well. They've had us silenced and they're not paying attention to us anyways. I don't remove them during the school year because it's awkward because everyone can see in the GroupMe when you remove someone. And so I'm like, well, that's, they're going to think I'm being like a bully removing someone. So I wait till I'm removing all of the seniors and do that. But we just kind of try to make announcements and have like one person that person will go to. Our info GroupMe is a closed message, so only I can add people to it. Our casual conversation one, I believe, is open, and anyone, that's in that GroupMe can add someone else to it.
Cool. That's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, we will move on to donors. So social media again. And so often, like, as you'll notice, all of the audiences that I've mentioned, social media is on there. A lot of times when you're posting things, or you're like thinking like, oh, like I'm posting this for the students, this, I'm not posting this for the donors. Everything you post is actually like, every one of those audiences is paying attention to it. A student is paying attention to it because they are interested in what you're doing, or they're looking to see how many students showed up. Do I want to go? Like, were there only 4 people at that? Would I feel awkward if I showed up? And that kind of thing. Where we are a smaller campus ministry, we're not RUF. We're not, Young Life. We don't have hundreds of people coming to UKirk. We couldn't fit them in our house. And so our groups are smaller. And so, they're paying attention for those reasons. Donors are paying attention to it. Like, are they just sitting on their butts and not doing anything? Why am I giving them money? Are they having, are they doing things that are engaging students? Are they having Bible studies? Are they having worship? Are these students like, engaged in their faith? Like, are they doing things that are worth my money and my time? We do have donors that come help with like, work day and things like that. And then, the presbytery and the church members, they're paying attention to it just like donors. The presbytery gives us money, and sometimes we have to fight for that money when it comes up in the presbytery budget. And if all of these churches and people are invested in what we're doing, then, it's easier to plead our case. Our former campus minister, Andy Morgan, started a program that we still do called Seminary Light. And that program, I advise for any campus ministry. It's a great model. So we have different topics that you might learn about in seminary, but they're, kind of dumbed down a little bit, and it's an hour. We usually do it around lunch, and lunch is provided. And we have pastors, because we're not supported by one church. We have pastors from our presbytery that are in this area. We also have Chattanooga in our presbytery, but that's an hour and a half away. So those folks aren't coming over for that. But we have a lot of churches here in Knoxville, and having those pastors come into our space, or those Christian ed directors coming into our space and leading a class, they're getting to know our students, and they're also invested more in our ministry because they've come through the doors. They're not coming through the doors any other time, really, unless they're like on campus and they want to pop by, which rarely happens. And so finding ways like that, I mean, I don't know if you consider that strategic communication, but just ways that you can get other folks invested in your ministry that would not necessarily be invested because they don't have a college student or they don't have a senior in high school. A lot of our donors are retired people at churches because we use baptism language when we're talking to potential donors in churches of, UKirk, we are like baptism promise keepers. We are continuing that promise that you make when a child is baptized in your church. We are continuing that, because there's youth group and then there's like adulthood at church, and UKirk falls in between, and we're still continuing that. They're not these like grown adults that are going to necessarily join a church on their own. Most of our students, like UKirk is their church. A few of them might go to a church on Sunday mornings. We have several that sing in choirs, but UKirk is their church. And sorry, I just none of that is in my notes, just totally got off on that soapbox. So back to donors. So social media, they are, like I said, paying attention to your, just your crowds, and not even your crowds, but just like, are they doing things? Like, are they actually engaging with students? And so, even just posting like a flyer type thing of like, oh, we have this event coming up, like they're paying attention to that as well. Our newsletters, just like social media, our newsletters are going to all of our audiences. The same newsletter goes to everyone. Because it has information in there for students. It has information in there that the donors are going to want to see. We always include a donation link in our email, in our newsletter. It has photos, stuff like that. Thank you cards. Our board members and our staff, we handwrite thank you cards. We actually have, we had cards made that say thank you, and they have the UKirk U on them, and then the inside of them actually has a picture of our house that a student did like a drawing of. And so we write thank you notes to donors there in those, by hand, not typed. We also do Christmas cards every year. So we always have a Christmas party at the beginning of December during exam week, and we take a photo. We're usually in like tacky Christmas sweaters, and we take our photo, and then I order Christmas cards with that photo. And with the Christmas card, we include a letter that like recaps the year, like highlights different things that we had happen throughout, 2020 or 2021. 2020 is a little sparse as to what we had going on, but and then we also, in January, we send out end of year tax letters, and those serve as another thank you. And then they also serve for, for tax purposes. They do have our tax ID number on there. Each one has like the person's name and how much they gave to UKirk in that year. And then Rachel and I both hand sign those letters. Just because we want people to know that we're taking the time to do that for them, and it's not just all typed out, even though I do have to go in and type every name into the letter. I did take time to do that. So those are the ways that we kind of stay in touch with our individual donors. I will get into more about like, churches and presbytery in a little bit. Any questions on those? Yes.
how often do you send out your newsletter, and how do you get people to sign up for it?
So we send out the newsletter at the first of every month, or around, if the first is on a Saturday, we'll send it out whatever that Monday is. And I will actually touch more on newsletters in a little bit to go in a little more in depth. We have anytime someone we do most of our donations are through our website. We use Vanco for online donations. And I know that the something with the PCUSA, you can actually get Vanco at like a discount through the PCUSA if you don't already have like an online giving platform. And so through the foundation, that's what it is. And so we use that. And when people sign up to give, they have to put an email address. We take that email address and we plug it into Constant Contact. That's how we get donors in there. I will often have board members text me and say, hey, so-and-so from my church said they would love to start getting the newsletter. We do, sometimes on Facebook will share like the link to sign up for our newsletter. You can do that periodically as well, because whatever platform you're using for your newsletter will have some kind of link to add where people can sign up.
Thank you. That's helpful. And then your Christmas card, is that a physical card or is that a digital card that y'all send?
Yes, physical card. So here's the last, this is the most recent one. We just, take a picture.
Okay.
Print it at Walgreens, go pick them up. And then I type out, I have labels for that, we put on there. And I usually have some students that will just help me stuff them. And they go to all of our donors and all of the churches in our presbytery.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay.
We also will send them to, we don't send them to all of the campus ministries on campus, but we have 3 campus ministries at UT that are progressive, that we do a lot of things with. And so the Tyson House, which is the Episcopal Lutheran, and our Wesley Foundation, we will usually send them one as well. And we've been in their houses and they'll have our Christmas card up on their bulletin board and stuff. So
okay, that's sweet.
Yeah.
And then I guess you get the addresses off of the Vanco information for donors to send.
And then, we use QuickBooks as well. So if people are sending in checks, I can get their, off of their check, or if I forget to write it, put it in at that time, I can pull it from QuickBooks, pull their address from QuickBooks as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We will move on to board members.
I think Neil has a hand.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I can't see everyone on that.
Jaclyn, you may cover this when you get onto newsletters. I was curious about the student one, and then this one, you send the same newsletter. So I'm just kind of curious about how you balance the information that goes out in your newsletter between students and donors.
So, when I say they're for donors, donors are just basically wanting to see what we're doing. They're not going to come to anything. We're not sending out financial information on there. But they're seeing this photo from this event and a recap of it. And we also, we do a student spotlight in each newsletter. So it'll have a picture of a student, and then it'll have where they're from, what church they grew up in, even if it's not a Presbyterian church, and then why they choose to come to UKirk. We have, every newsletter has a blurb from, most of the time, from Rachel, our campus minister, when she was just on maternity leave, and she did write a few for me to have while she was gone. But then our June one, the chair of our board wrote one. And so that's always in there, and it might be kind of devotion style, or it might be just hey, this year's been really tough. Here's what we've been doing to stay engaged with students. And then, it also will have the schedule for worship for that month with the date and what the sermon title is, or what scripture is going to be preached on. And then it'll have our seminary light schedule and our Bible study schedule, different things. So while I say you might be thinking like, oh, like only the students are paying attention to this. If I'm giving money to something, I'm gonna be like, oh, like, man, they've got a lot going on. Like they're doing, Bible study and worship and all of this. Where was I? Here still? Okay. All of this different stuff. And so, but then students are looking at the same email, filling out their calendar because they want to make sure that they are at those events. We do send out a separate email to donors, like specifically for fundraisers, like around Giving Tuesday, just our donor, we're not going to send that to a sophomore in college. We don't talk much about our funding with the students. We don't want that to be something that they stress over ever. The students that do serve on our board, they are in the know. It's not that we keep it from them. We just don't talk about it a whole lot with the students. But yeah, hope that answered your question. Cool. All right, I think we are moving on to board members. So again, social media. For us, we have some older board members, and they, like one of them whom I'm really close to, she goes to the church that I'm a member of, and she doesn't have Facebook. So she's not, engaging with us there, but we have a lot of board members that are, and they will often share our posts on Facebook, especially around Giving Tuesday. We will ask our board members to share our Giving Tuesday posts and tell why they choose to serve on our board. And so, that's a way that people are seeing our information, but they're also seeing like, oh, like, Susie from First Pres, she serves on their board. I had no idea. And she must really value that ministry. And so social media for the board they're also just helping us like further our audience on social media. We don't pay to ever boost any of our stuff. We just do that organically by our board and our staff, and students that feel comfortable sharing it will do so as well. And then, like I said, newsletters to keep them informed. And also, we do have board meetings, but the newsletters also, board members will often come to things, especially during Welcome Week at the beginning of the year. They'll come and help serve meals, and they'll get to know students. Or, we have one board member that she comes to every Seminary Light. She's a retired English professor here from UT, and she comes every Monday to Seminary Light and has gotten to know the students and, has gotten to know all the pastors that come and teach. So she has really enjoyed that. And then email, we email a lot with our board. We do not, besides newsletters, we don't email with our students. They get too many emails from their, professors and things like that. But we do email a lot with the board. We have even done an occasional email vote here and there. And then board meetings. We have our board meetings every other month. On the off months, we have 3 committees within our board. We have executive committee, which is Rachel not only serves as campus minister, but she's the executive director. And so she's on exec, and then the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. And then the rest of the board chooses between 2 committees. We have property and we have development. Property takes care of all the stuff around the house. Like the summer that we were in between campus ministers and I was serving as interim, the basement flooded. And so that was fun to do by myself. But the property committee kind of stepped up and helped me with that. And then development, we just recently did an online auction, and they helped me organize that and everything. That kind of happened at the beginning of Rachel's maternity leave as well. So it was very helpful to have them with that. So our board does not meet every month. We meet every other month. And that has been really nice too. We have not had an in-person meeting in 15 months. So it'll be interesting when we do that again. I serve on session at my church, and we had our first in-person session meeting with, if you're vaccinated, you didn't have to have your mask on. And I felt super vulnerable and weird without my mask on in the room with everyone. but it was also nice. So any questions for board members? I'm assuming most of you have a board. Like I said, we're not, part of one church. So we are our own 501c3. We are our own organization. And so we have a board of directors that serves like our session. So that is one of our audiences. May not be so if you're just out of a single church. I'm not sure how that works. All right. We'll move to congregations and presbytery. I'm sorry. I think this was only supposed to be 30 minutes, so I'm going to hurry for the rest of the time. There's not that much left. So social media, again, churches themselves, like their accounts for that church will often share our posts, especially around like if we're doing fundraisers, if we have some big event coming up, like we've done a Friendsgiving in the past where we've invited churches to come and take part in that with us, which was pretty neat. Sometimes I know kind of who runs different accounts for different churches in our area, and I will like ask them like, hey, will you go share this? Our UKirk newsletter, like people can sign up for it. We also, like I said, I add all the donors to it, and it also goes to all of the churches in our presbytery. I have, pastors are on there, staff, other staff members and education staff are all on it. And then our presbytery also does a newsletter. It goes out on the 1st of every month as well. And even if we do not have a lot going on, we will always put something in there. It's usually just like a paragraph and a picture or our logo. But like when we did our online auction, we made sure to have that, like a save the date, and then another one when it was closer. And then this past one, we just did like hey, here's how the summer's going. And we did a picture from the food truck lunch that we just had a couple Fridays ago. But we try to do that just because people that might not be getting our newsletter might be getting the presbytery newsletter. And again, we want them to see that we're active and we're their money and their support is going to good use. Board members. So our board members are also our spokespeople in churches. And so we, they don't all serve on session. We have some clergy on our board. We have, and then members of the churches, but they are, kind of the people that we hope will go to bat for us with like the missions committee and stuff and getting us on the line item for that church. And then Minute for Mission. Every year, except for this past year, we have had students go once a year. I will line it up with all the churches, have different students that I think kind of their personality might be good for that church. They'll go do a Minute for Mission of just not necessarily like, hey, give us money, but hey, here's what UKirk has going on. And on that same Sunday, I will have sent something in for the church to put in their bulletin. And I will often make the little QR codes that will take them to like our donation page on our website. And then I have missed very few presbytery meetings in my time here. I go and table at the presbytery meetings. I have a UKirk tablecloth. We have a sign. I have pictures, and I often have candy, and then UKirk swag like stickers, and if we have leftover t-shirts, I'll take those, or Frisbees, that kind of stuff. And I set up, and most of the time people just come take a sticker and some candy so they have something to do during the meeting. But we are there, and it actually has given me the opportunity to make some personal connections with churches in our presbytery, which is actually, through that I've gotten to know churches, and they will contact me and ask me for help with their communication strategy and stuff at their church, because they might be a smaller church with like an 80-year-old woman that's their secretary, and she doesn't know social media. And so they'll ask me for help with things like that. And that's been really neat to like make those connections. Any questions on congregations and presbytery? All right. I don't see any, so I'm going to go to the next. So newsletters, I said I was going to get in a little bit more on that. So we use Constant Contact. We used to use MailChimp. Constant Contact has an option for if you have 500 or less contacts, There is a tier for $20 a month, which is pretty good. Constant Contact is very easy to use. It is, you can save your like brand colors in there. So like we do black and orange because UT. And so we save that stuff in there, and you can save your logo to where it automatically is on whichever, format you pull up. It looks very professional. You can see your results and things as to who's opened it, who's clicked on this. And then MailChimp is another option, which we used to use, and they actually have a free basic option. So when I first started doing this, that was what I was using. But as we have, like I said, every year we get a spreadsheet with students that have marked Presbyterian. So our contact list has grown. I think we're like right around 500 or so right now. And some of those bounce, and I'll go clean that up because you can see what bounces, and I'll delete that contact. But we do use Constant Contact versus MailChimp, but they're both great. The content within the newsletter, like I said, remember all of your audiences, they're all looking at the same stuff in different ways. We always have a blurb from the campus minister. We have our schedules for our programming for that month. And we have student spotlights, announcements, and then I always have the links to our social media platforms and a donation button as well. And so that's all on there. Sometimes they're really short, sometimes they're longer. It just depends on, what's going on that month. And then the Presbyterian newsletter, like I said, upcoming events or a recap of recent events. But we always make sure Rachel or I sends something in. There are 3 campus ministries in this presbytery, us, UT Chattanooga, and Maryville College. And so, we want them to see that, and the presbytery supports all 3. And so we do want them to see that like their money is going to good use, and their prayers and their time as well. Any questions on newsletters? I know we kind of just touched on that a minute ago, so may have gotten everyone's questions then. I didn't originally, I just added this last night. I wanted to touch a little bit on websites. Personally, I rarely go to an organization or a business's website anymore. I go to social media to get my information. But websites are important, especially like that's where we have our donation, for people to donate. They go through our website to do so. Have your mission statement on there, your staff contact information, or also like a basic contact form where like they can just fill out their name and it'll send it, to us, and we get that. But one of the big ways that we use our website is we have a blog portion to our website. And so the campus minister will often write blogs about like, things going on. When Andy was here, there was that the Nashville statement that was written by, some very conservative people. And he kind of wrote, a rebuttal to that. And we've written when there have been, big things going on in the world, like shootings, things like that. And then we also have students that, like I was talking to Elizabeth a minute ago, but one of our students grew up at the church that one of her hats that she wears where she works. And she is working on a farm this year, and then she's going to Duke Divinity School in the fall of 2022. And I had her write a blog just about like her call story and like how she, came to decide where she was going to go to seminary, if she was going to go to seminary, that kind of thing. And then we share that on our Facebook page. And that is what brings people to our website. Like you can go, like we use, our website is a WordPress site. So like I can go on and I can see there was like 75 people that came on the day that I posted that blog. And I mean, we have different people write different blogs about different things. We had one this past year, a freshman. She was a freshman. She never had a single in-person class. And so she just wrote about like her freshman experience during a pandemic. It doesn't have to be about UKirk. It can just be about things going on that people might find interesting. And it's a way we do have around giving. So I keep mentioning Giving Tuesday. We do a Giving Tuesday fundraiser every year that we start on Giving Tuesday and we run it for a week and we end the next Monday. And we do leading the month or so leading up to that, I do videos that I then edit together, but I do different videos about different things, about like, why did you choose UKirk? What's your favorite part about UKirk? Different things like that. And then we also have had board members write blogs about why they choose to serve at UKirk. We have a couple board members that they're alumni of this ministry, and they're in their 40s and 50s now. And so they can tell their story as to like how important it was to them as a student, and now why they choose to serve on the board. So there's different ways you can use that option on your website if you do have the capability of adding in a blog. Any questions about website? If you don't have one, or if you do, just make sure that it is not super wordy. Websites can get very, bogged down. Church websites can still look like they're from the 90s as well. So just making sure that they look kind of sleek. Even if you're using, like Squarespace, they have layouts that are very, neat to the eye. You just have to add the pictures in. All right. So the last thing, I just wanted to give you guys some helpful apps that I use. Canva, I often use that more so on the computer, but there is an app. Canva is really nice to make flyers on, or make those, graphics for social media. They have some ones already. You can just change the wording, or you can get really creative and make your own. Word Swag is another easy one. That is an app on the phone. They have like stock photos that you can use, and then they have different fonts where you can like put words over it. They also have an option where you can add your logo, so you can like add branding to the bottom of it. Storylux is one that I've recently started using. It's just a way to make your story look cooler. If you're doing like, your Instagram story, you can upload photos to it, and it'll make it like almost like different frames. Some of them it'll look like film is kind of running up the screen. Lightroom is one that I use a lot. It's through Adobe Suite, but you can get a free account for Lightroom. With Lightroom, you actually buy presets from Etsy, and then you upload those presets to your Lightroom account. The presets are like $3, very cheap, but it's basically like a filter for your photo, but it's made by professional photographers. So they like really know how to like bring out. So there's different ones you can choose depending on your, like what you want your photos to look like. Magic Eraser is a nice one. I do not have Adobe anything besides Lightroom. So Magic Eraser is nice for removing backgrounds for things. So if there's like a logo, we got a new sign this year. Ours was stolen out of the front yard. So we got a new sign, and we wanted to include on the new sign the Cumberland Presbyterian logo next to the PCUSA. And the only Cumberland Presbyterian logo I could find online had like the white background. And so I was able to remove the background and add that in. And sometimes it's handy, like, I made a pride post for UKirk, and I included, we are a More Light ministry. So I don't remember, it was one logo that I found, but I included the PCUSA. I guess I should have included the Cumberland logo, but I included the rainbow PCUSA cross, our UKirk logo, and then the More Light logo at the bottom. And one of those I had to use to like remove the background because I wanted it to, show up at the bottom without the white background. So that one's nice. There are scheduling apps. Hootsuite and Crowdfire are some popular ones. I don't use them, but like I mentioned at the very beginning, if social media is not your thing, on Monday, you can schedule your posts for the rest of the week, and you don't have to worry about it anymore for that week. So there are basic, I run multiple accounts, but there are basic tiers where you don't have to pay anything for those apps. Constant Contact and MailChimp, they both have apps on on your phone, so you can keep up with things on there as well. And then GroupMe, of course, has an app on the phone as well. Those are ones that I use that I find important. Any questions?
What was the second scheduling app you named? Crowd something?
Crowdfire.
And then I also had a question. You briefly mentioned alum. So for your alum who are not necessarily, let's say, donors or fall in some of the other categories, are there any communications that you direct towards them or things that you do with your alum?
Yeah, so we, since I have been in this position, I have, like, we don't have contact, I guess, with like older alum. I don't know how to get in contact with them, but I have started, I add the alum to the newsletter. So they are continuing to get our newsletter. 2 years ago for Giving Tuesday, I actually reached out to a bunch of alum that some I knew and some I was given contact information. And for one of our Giving Tuesday videos, I actually had them make videos of themselves talking about why they loved UKirk, or when most of them were in part of it, it was the PCM. It was before the rebranding. And then they sent those to me and I put together a video. And from that, just reaching out to them then brought in a lot more people. But we don't have, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of contact information from before like 2014, because I wasn't here, and the person that was in this position before me was like 15 hours a week, and she was basically just a secretary. So I'm trying to build that up. I do have in Constant Contact, you can make different contact groups, and I do have an alum contact group that I'm trying to grow. I have done things on social media like sharing the link for our Constant Contact group for them to sign up for it. And I've asked alum that I know to share it and tag people that they were in, part of the ministry with, just trying to get some older alumni. We have talked about in the future doing some kind of like homecoming during football season, of like having the house open and having some students here with like, kind of just talking about like what we do now, and then like showing them around the house and having, appetizers, stuff like that, kind of like a tailgate, but also where they can come and see the house and we can meet them and things like that. So we're working on better communication with alumni. We do not have a great database for before about 2014.
Well, that's okay. I'm starting this year.
There you go. You got to start somewhere. That's all I have. Any other questions? I'm sorry if the other ones have been really short. I ran through this last night and it was only 35 minutes, but this has been almost an hour, so I apologize. I hope it has at least been not a waste of your time and helpful.
No, Jaclyn, this has been awesome. So much good information. And there's a few times that we've gone over an hour, so please don't worry about it.
I did, Jenny said that if any of you are interested, I did write a couple years ago, I wrote a quick sheet on social media and communication for UKirk National and Youth USA. So she said she could get that to you all as well if you're interested in that.
Yeah, if it's a quick sheet, it should be on the UKirk website.
Okay. Gotcha.
As well. Yeah, so if anyone needs to go after, since it's been an hour, you're welcome to, but I'd love to, if Jaclyn, if you're available for a little longer, and any folks have any questions, now is the time. So thank you so much, Jaclyn.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure.
I find the social media aspect a little overwhelming. I do have an intern except for the months of June and July. And like right now, I'm struggling to post something every week.
Yeah.
And I also feel like the intern that I'm going to have starting in August, that I will need to give her some direction. So, I tend to be very analytical. So to me, it would be great to just know I need to post 1, 2, 3 times a week. One is informational, one is encouragement, one is something that but I am absolutely overwhelmed trying to figure out what would be best for that. So like I need help with like social media strategy.
Yeah. So honestly, my quick sheet is more focused on social media. But like, a lot of my posts are some of them are, well thought out beforehand, and others are like, oh, we had this really cool event and I'm going to post about it. Or other times it's like, oh, I took this at another, cookout that we had with like yard games, and I'll just use it to like announce that we're having a cookout today and come play yard games. And so they don't have to be like super thought out, things like that. I always take pictures of worship. We did worship outside this year, so like that was one of the photos from worship this year. And sometimes I'll take a picture from worship and I'll put a quote from Rachel's sermon in there, or I'll put a scripture that she mentioned in the caption. But I would say one thing when you're posting from if you're having a student do it, or even yourself, to remember that it is not your personal account. So when you're talking and you're posting things from the UKirk account, always use third person. We, ours. You don't say, I am so excited for this, because that's not your account. You're speaking as the organization. Sometimes I've had to post things about myself and I still have to talk in third person. And so, just making sure that you're remembering that it's not me, it's not mine. Talk like you are talking like the organization. If you go, our Instagram is not perfect, but you're welcome to go look at it and see, some of the different content that I have posted. This past year, I had to get pretty creative with some of the things that we did, because it was slim pickings for events that we did, and you only get to see half of our students' faces, but there is content there. And our handle is UKirk-UTK. If you don't already have an Instagram account, I encourage you to make it like very simple. UKirk, whatever you are. Don't make it something hard for students to find. Or, I know the UKirk at UGA is still the PSC. My brother-in-law is a senior in college there, and they're still the PSC. They're a UKirk ministry, but they didn't, change their name to UKirk. So whatever your ministry is, just try to make your handle very close to that. Any other questions?
Well, I posted Jaclyn's quick sheet in the chat if anyone wants to review that in the future. There are no more questions. Jaclyn, this was really great. Thank you so much. Yeah, like British, I'm trying to get an intern to do a lot of this stuff as well this coming fall. So now I feel like I have a good guide what to hand them.
And if you all ever want to reach out to me, feel free. My email address here is jaclyn@ukirkutk.org.
Yeah. Could you put that in the chat?
Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. All right. Well, it was good to see you all. Yeah.
I hope everyone has a great, somewhat back to normal school year this year.
Yes, that is the hope.
Thank you very much, Jaclyn.
Thank y'all.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.